Hey, how you doing? It's Zack, Seward, and we are here with the Hash on a lovely Monday midday. This is where we talk about the latest in crypto news. I'm actually flying a bit blind today because I was just publishing a story. Who's got the first story today? Who's going to lead us off? Who's got it?
I think it's Will.
Thank you, sir. Take it away. Will, I can't hear you. I don't know. Can anyone else hear?
I can't hear Will at all.
Will, we can't hear you. Your mouth
Will's
is really moving
not
though.
ready for the show today.
He's just not
chilling.
ready.
He's crying.
You know, we got people flying blinds. We got people flying mutes. We got all kinds of stuff. All right, we're going to talk about... I'm not going to steal Will's story. I would love to start off with the IRS because I have a whole lot of stuff to say. But instead, I'm going to take it to something a little more optimistic and fun. So I'm going to start off by talking about Jack Dorsey's tweet that happened a couple of days ago. So huge news. I think it surprised a lot of people in the Bitcoin space. He tweeted out a link to Mises.org, which is the location of Murray Rothbard's book, Anatomy of the State. And it's basically, you can download the PDF, super quick read. It'll take you like 45 minutes to read the entire thing. And it kind of shocked everyone. I don't think I have been this bullish about life for a really long time until I read this tweet. And you may be wondering, like, why would Jack Dorsey tweeting out a book by some dead economist be really inspiring? And it's because Murray Rothbard wrote this book that basically explains what the state is. Now, you know, difference between governments and the state, they're very different concepts. Murray Rothbard wrote this amazing piece where he breaks down what the state is, you know, how it functions, how it persists, how it relates to other states, and it's incredible. It really is part of the foundation of, you know, this cypherpunk ethos and the creation of Bitcoin. This idea that, you know, have these state monopolies on things, and it creates a whole lot of violence and wars. And I mean, it's just an amazing thing. I might take this opportunity to do like another dramatic reading because we all know how much I love to do dramatic readings of Rothbard on the show. All right. So, I mean, some of the most well-known passages from the book, and again, really do recommend that you read it. It'll take you less than an hour to get through the whole thing. It's super short. So it basically describes why the state is immoral and how so-called good intentions are used as excuses for theft and manipulation. And he says the state has never been created by a social contract. It's always been born in conquest and exploitation. It's an incredibly anti-war book. It's really wonderful. And he says the state is that organization in society which attempts to maintain a monopoly of the use of force and violence in a given territorial area. In particular, it is the only organization in society that obtains its revenue not by voluntary contribution or payment for services rendered, but by coercion. And it's nice that we're starting off with Rothbard and then leading into Will's segment about the IRS, because it's really how a lot of people in crypto feel about this idea that we have this mass apparatus for collection of funds that enables atrocious things like wars. There is no way that, you know, small, tiny, warring warlords could have raised the amount of money that these states we have in this modern day nation state set up across the world, and all of the devastation that have come from all of the wars as a result of that. And raising of the capital is a huge part of that. Monopoly of the money supply is a huge part of that. The fact that, you know, these states can just inflate the money supply to oblivion, basically taking the savings from all of its citizens. And from that, do atrocious things like drop bombs on Syria or perhaps invade Afghanistan and create, you know, a terrible, terrible situation. So much going on in this, but it was pretty exciting for a lot of people to read Jack Dorsey, who's this major figure who runs, you know, one of the largest social media platforms in the world, who is a thought leader out there writing this, and seeing a lot of people respond and say, hey, never heard of this. Maybe I'll check it out. And it just kind of, it introduces people to voluntarist ideas. And I just thought it was really exciting to be moving towards a system where we have voluntary money, we have decentralized systems, and we have, you know, voluntary associations. And it's just kind of cool to see. But Will, I don't know whether you wanted to jump into your IRS topic, whether we wanted to just talk about Rothbard a little more, because I would love us to just talk about Rothbard a little more.
We got to chat about it.
All right. I'm going to go to Will first. You saw this and you responded to me. You were like, we're going to talk about this, Naomi. And I'm like, oh, Will, we're going to talk about this.
Yes, I am back, and we'll talk about the IRS at the end of the show. So stick around, definitely important news. But this Rothbard thing was great. I saw that, last week Jack tweeted that, and it really just kind of shows you that there is a lot more diversity of thought, I think, on Twitter than there is on a lot of other social apps, which is interesting. It's also just interesting to see Jack. He just continues to be like a stalwart for his own thoughts. Like he just keeps going along his own little destiny for whatever that is. Like, the rest of twitter.com is largely considered like very political, and he seems to be separate from it in his own political stance, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like he's very different from the rest of his company, which is interesting to see, like that dichotomy between the company and the CEO. Of course, like he's a huge proponent of Bitcoin, huge proponent of the Lightning Network. He really is not a fan of altcoins, and I think he went off on that a little bit this weekend as well, talking about how different altcoins debase the monetary supply and they're just fiat 2.0. So it's fascinating to see someone with such a high profile as Dorsey tweeting something like Rothbard out there, who is definitely on the further out edge of political discourse and thought.
Yeah, I just want to jump in and remind everyone that fiat does not mean unbacked. It means by decree. So Jack Dorsey is incorrect there. As much as we love him for the Rothbard, alt coins are not fiat because the government is not telling people that they have money have value by decree. But what are your thoughts on there's a lot of skepticism about Dorsey. People are saying, well, this is a big censorship-based platform, and we don't trust him, and he's probably in bed with government. All of this stuff. I think people just can't take a win when they get one. I mean, we've on the show we've talked about how he's looking towards creating this decentralized Twitter. Exactly, Jen. But what are your thoughts? I'll throw to you, Jen. You have Jack Dorsey kind of exploring this world of creating a decentralized Twitter. It does seem to be that he has this foundation that really prioritizes voluntary ideas rather than, state involvement and all of this through, even though Twitter itself doesn't seem to represent that or reflects that.
I think exactly what Will was saying. Jack has kind of separated himself from how Twitter operates as a company. And while there has been censorship on Twitter, it seems like Jack is thinking about a lot of these ideas in a different way. And he is looking towards a decentralized future. And he's taken all of the, I think, right steps. I think we can all see the journey that Jack is going down. And we can see that not only has he been educating himself over the past few years, but he's putting his money where his mouth is. And this tweet was just, I think, really exciting for people in the space after seeing the reaction on Twitter. Zack, I did see your hand go up at the beginning of the segment, though. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts. I mean, I love me some Jack. I think there's a lot of interesting things you could look at, right? I mean, to a degree, he's sort of like cosplaying as a cypherpunk here, and I think it's really interesting. Can you be the CEO of two major publicly traded companies and really be a cypherpunk? I don't know. Maybe you can. Maybe that this is some vision of, instead of the nation state, the platform state. And as the Facebooks and Twitters of the world become more central to our lives, maybe that's where we'll live in the internet era. So it's interesting to see him. It's interesting to see him again going down this sort of rabbit hole. I see Jack as sort of like, trying to reclaim Bitcoin for the woke left, which is also an interesting conversation because he's very socially progressive. And I think Bitcoin often gets sort of cast toward the right of the political spectrum, especially now as we see the debate rage in DC. So anyway, Jack continues to be an interesting figurehead. You know how I feel about figureheads, but I'll carve out an exception for the Jack Dorsey. Okay, Will, let's talk about IRS. You're back. You're going to take this story. What do you got?
I love the nuance on your thoughts there, though. That was good stuff.
Sorry, it was a big mess. It was a big mess.
No, it was great. Moving over to the IRS. So the U.S. Treasury Department is preparing to offer an olive branch to crypto developers, miners, and hardware firms spooked by the bipartisan infrastructure bill's tax reporting requirements, according to Bloomberg News. So Danny Nelson, CoinDesk reporter, wrote this up, talking about how the IRS is thinking about the ways like the rhetoric involved in the bill differently than the cryptocurrency industry itself. The cryptocurrency industry is looking at this rhetoric and they're looking at the words in the text and saying this could be devastating for the industry, which it could be. And the IRS is saying we won't interpret it that way. We're going to interpret it less broadly than stated. We're going to interpret it that only brokers, as defined by brokers in U.S. law, would have to file these information requests to the IRS. Of course, the cryptocurrency industry, not a fan of any of this language because it is extremely broad. And I think there's always a chance that someone interprets this differently in 10, 20, 30 years and starts going after certain sectors of the cryptocurrency industry. Just because it's interpreted one way now, it doesn't mean it's not interpreted a different way later. So that would be my first take on this. But it's definitely interesting to see that you have so much information flying out there about this bill and so many different parties that are involved with it, whether it be the cryptocurrency industry, lobbyists for the cryptocurrency industry, IRS, Treasury, White House, Congress itself. So interesting to see all these power players involved. Naomi, I want to toss it to you. I didn't see any hands go up, but maybe there was one. I wasn't paying attention enough.
Yeah, I'm ready to take this on. I love the way we're now looking at this and talking about this as an olive branch and being so grateful to the IRS for the wonderful work that they're doing in not completely redefining the term broker. Oh, wow. How amazing that they're playing by, traditional definitions in the English language. I mean, it's like, let's look at the actual situation here. You have an organization that's coming in and appropriating a huge amount of money because they've defined cryptocurrency as property. And every government has a different definition of cryptocurrency. Obviously, each one is going to take the definition that gives them the most power. And in the IRS's situation, they get capital gains taxes if they define this as property and not as currency. If you actually look at how people in crypto define this, if you look at how every wallet is set up, if you look at how exchanges are set up, it's like a bank account, right? When I put my dollar bill in a bank account, I don't get back the same dollar bill that I got in. It's all fungible. It's all swished around in a big pool. That's how wallets are set up. That's how exchanges are set up. So the IRS is asking us to completely go against our understanding of how this works as a currency and keep track of every individual UTXO. And no, you can't select specific UTXOs you want to spend and then track how much that has changed in value. You have to do some weird rule where it's first in, first out, or first in, last out, or an average across it. You have to basically do all these mental gymnastics in order to fit this into what the IRS is saying. So no, I'm not going to throw the IRS a bone and say thank you IRS for this olive branch and not destroying cryptocurrency, because they have destroyed cryptocurrency just in a different way. And it's just become normalized now. So that's my take there, but I'll throw to the rest of the group for their take.
I'll take it really quick. I just want to bring up a really important note that you just made, that the U.S. is picking winners and losers, or the U.S. government rather is picking winners and losers, or has the ability to pick winners and losers depending on how this is interpreted. So we talked about proof of work mining and then proof of stake. That was a discussion the last 2 weeks that the bill explicitly called out proof of work as okay and proof of stake is not okay. And then some amendments went through and then some amendments didn't go through. And now their interpretation is very broad. And it looks like proof of stake will be fine under this. But the exact situation you're describing right now is also kind of under the text that you can't quite see, where Bitcoin operates on something called UTXO standard, which is kind of like change in your pocket. You take a quarter out, keep swishing around the change in your pocket, put the quarter back in, might grab a different quarter out, you don't know. Same unit, but different quarter. And so it's hard to track them. Ethereum operates and other smart contract platforms operate on a different standard where you always know which quarter is which quarter, and it's always tracked in the same way. And this legislation very well could pick that the UTXO standard is better than the Ethereum standard for this, or it could pick the other way around, just depending on how they want to interpret it. And they're both different technologies with different benefits on the technological side, but it's frustrating to see that just penmanship from a bureaucrat would decide which standard would become the norm.
Yeah, I think that's my take here too. This whole episode in the last few weeks has been like Schoolhouse Rock crypto edition. I'm just a bill. That guy on Capitol Hill has been learning that for the crypto community, and it's been so revealing. Oh, okay, one senator doesn't like it, so compromise is dead. Or okay, well, it's going to be law, but the departments in DC, they're not going to enforce that law. They're going to read it differently. They're just going to look the other way until some other ruling comes down the line. It's just I think it's been very engaging for people to learn about these things that previously hadn't been so it hadn't been such a captivating field of study. So anyway, that's just my take there. Just to sort of learn about how government works through this crypto lens has been really interesting to watch these last few weeks. But hey, let's leave it there. We'll leave DC. We'll get out of the swamp. We'll toss this to Jen. Jen, what are you talking about?
All right, I'm talking about Walmart today. So they are hiring a digital currency and cryptocurrency product lead. Part of the role requires identifying crypto-related partnerships and investments. Now, you'll remember 2 years ago that the retailer applied for a patent on a price-stable coin, but not a lot, well, actually no information, not a lot of information has come out on the progress of that since then. Zach, I'm going to kick it right back off to you. What did you take away from this? What do you make of this new Walmart role?
Bentonville, Arkansas, popping, new crypto capital. It's going to be hot. I think that this is just another data point in sort of the everyone is here narrative, right? So everyone from big banks to big retail players are starting to take this thing seriously and think about ways that cryptocurrencies can A, streamline their operations, B, serve their customers better, or C, other. And I think what we're seeing here is Walmart really sort of dipping its toe in a meaningful way. So this was interesting. Again, it's light on details. We don't have a ton of sources within the world of Walmart, so I don't have any tea to spill. But it's going to be interesting to see what this looks like. Should it be hired, and should there be some sort of splashy rollout around Walmart's crypto efforts? But yeah, I mean, that's sort of my high level take. I don't know if anyone had any thoughts here. I'll kick it to Naomi. I mean, I think like crypto in the retail context or crypto just in the spending context is still sort of the verdict is still out on that. So I'm going to toss this to you. I did see Will stick his hand up, but Naomi, what's your thoughts on Walmart potentially doing something here?
I think that's really exciting. A lot of people don't realize, but Walmart is kind of a central player for a lot of people who live on crypto every day, because the hardest part about living on crypto every day is the bill paying. And Walmart has a bill pay center, and there are a ton of third-party apps that allow you to buy Walmart gift cards. So it actually has provided a way for people to live on crypto every day. And like, I mean, you're not going to have your general utility company accepting crypto anytime in the near future. And so these businesses that have been set up and these alternative systems that allow people to use their crypto and spend it are really important. So the fact that Walmart potentially is exploring accepting different cryptocurrencies, I mean, we don't really know what they're looking at. They're just like, oh, we're just hiring people. We don't know where this is going to go. But I mean, we can guess where this is going to go. And if they are going to, start integrating cryptocurrency into their business, I think that's really exciting, especially for people who do live on just crypto. But Will, I'll throw it to you.
Yeah, I'm with both of you guys on this. I think it's really exciting, but at the same time, I'm pretty hesitant to say this means anything at this point, just because we've seen a lot of these things over the years, especially like Amazon recently has been talking about integrating some crypto. At least they were looking at some hirings. Zack can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but you just see these things kind of pass through. You see hirings on LinkedIn, or you see like patents that have come up. Or Walmart has put a patent on some sort of digital currency application that they want to integrate, and they don't necessarily go that far. I think the interesting thing to me, and Naomi, to your point, is that Walmart does act like a bank for a lot of people. People use credit cards to Walmart and go there. And there's always like little kiosks within Walmarts or like little financial spots where that's where people do their banking. And that's where they have access to the banking infrastructure. A lot of people have JP Morgan and all those guys, but a lot of people don't. And some sort of crypto integration in the near future would bring a lot of people into the banking sector overall, which would be very exciting. But so Zack and Jen, throw your hands up so you guys can duke it out.
Yeah, no, that was exactly my point. Just, riffing on Naomi's idea that it's central for a lot of people who live on cryptocurrency. It's also central for a lot of people who don't have other banking services. So I think both you guys had the way smarter take. The idea that Walmart is a low-key financial services player that may be moving into cryptocurrency is way more interesting than Walmart as a retail giant moving into cryptocurrency. I will kick it to you, Jen.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that. So earlier this year, they created a fintech unit called Hazel, where they're looking at getting into the space of bank accounts and lending and operating almost very similarly to how WeChat operates in China. And I wanted to get your guys' take on what that could look like. What do you think when you hear about Walmart getting into financial services and operating how WeChat operates in China? I don't know if any of you have experienced using WeChat in China, but the first time I was in China, it was crazy. A lot of places didn't even accept fiat currency. You had to pay with your WeChat app. And so, I don't know, Naomi, when you hear that, what are the initial thoughts that come to your head?
See some alarms
it makes a
going
lot of
on.
sense to me. I mean,
red flags.
sense that they're going to be exploring this, do it all in our app, perhaps have our own stable coin, figure out that. We're going to see more and more of that. We're going to get to a system where, currently we have all these pockets of value across the economy because of the internet age. And we have frequent flyer miles and we have rewards points. We have all of these things that accrue value, and they're in these isolated systems, these walled gardens. I think that that's going to become a thing of the past. I think we're going to start to see systems. You already have Flexer, right, which allows you to spend any currency you want, including a bunch of cryptocurrencies, and the merchant accepts anything. There could become a point where I can spend my frequent flyer miles at Starbucks and they accept it, but they're actually accepting a different currency to the one I'm spending with. And all of these things become interchangeable. So it's interesting that Walmart is exploring this. I think that they could build something which integrates a lot of these things because they already have their finger in a lot of pies at the moment, because they do already incorporate a lot of financial services into their business model. So I think we're going to see more and more and more of this, and we're going to start to rework our idea of utility and value and digital value and currency. It's all going to be completely messed up over the next 10 years. I'm excited to see what happens. But Zach, I'll throw to you.
That reminded me of Backed. Backed, which we know is this Wall Street player, has this digital wallet that looks to combine all those things. So we should check in with Backed and see how they're doing on the frequent flyer points. All right. Thanks for reminding me of that, Naomi. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to change gears. So we're going to go to the world of user-owned networks. I got 3 stories here. It's a bit of a smorgasbord. We're going to get out the user-owned charcuterie and talk about 3 things at once. Okay, item 1, World Mobile. They raised a bunch of money in a token sale. The idea here is to use tokens in Zanzibar, which is the island off the coast of Tanzania, to power a mesh network that will give people greater access to the internet. We'll see how it goes. TBD. Second story. Hit me. There it is. Former Apple CEO Gil Amelio joins Cirrus Blockchain as an advisor, senior advisor in this instance. This is a blockchain-powered data ownership project that gives you a share of the data that you are constantly pumping out into the internet in a way that looks to be more fair. And last ingredient in this recipe, 3, hit me, helium. All right, there we go. They do something similar to the data ownership model, but for low power Wi-Fi devices that typically connect to like Internet of Things devices like environmental sensors or like e-scooters or stuff like that. So you get a little hotspot in your house, you get a share of the token rewards for expanding the footprint of this otherwise decentralized network. Okay, so that's a long-winded way to say there's 3 things that have popped up in recent weeks about user-owned networks. And I'm really curious to know if any of us here thinks that crypto is at the tipping point for these networks to actually work, where there's a critical mass around these things, and you can do these decentralized, token-incentivized models that provide real-world services, be it mesh networks in Zanzibar or connecting e-scooters to the internet in San Francisco. I'm going to toss this out just to see what our current thinking on user-owned networks is. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Will, are you bullish or bearish on some of these ideas that are bandied about by these 3 various projects?
Oh. Did you just throw up when you said my name?
Oh, it's just a natural. Sorry.
We all do, Will. We all do.
I know you do.
Will about that?
No, mesh networks are really interesting. I don't to your question about is this a tipping point? I think that Bitcoin did kind of pop the genie out of the bottle in the sense that I think more than ever, people are talking about the idea of value creation just being something that is wholly enveloped in someone's mind. This JPEG has value because I think it has value, and then other people start thinking the same way, and boom, before you know it, you have penguins selling for $5 million a pop. And I think that same kind of logic can be passed down to other technologies that are popping up, whether that be a mesh network or a digital currency like Bitcoin. So the sky's the limit, I think, in a lot of sense for these things. I don't know if they have, I'd say, fundamentals in the sense that we don't know what their cash flow would be. We don't know how many users these mesh networks are going to have. Those things have still to be adopted. I know a lot of people are interested in getting helium nodes because they can earn helium tokens. I don't know very many people who are using helium actively, though I'm excited to see if people start doing it because I think mesh networks are a very cool technology that's just not widely adopted yet. But we need to hear Naomi's thoughts, so I'm going to give it to her.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Mesh networks are really kind of the next stage of the internet, right? When you have the internet, we kind of think of it as this decentralized thing, and it's really not at all decentralized. There are so many ways that this is a completely centralized and controllable system, and mesh networks help to mitigate that to a certain extent. And people have been exploring this world for a really long time, trying to figure out, well, how do we actually have robust and fast and efficient mesh networks? And it's a difficult problem to solve. I wonder whether incentivizing people in these systems is the right answer, or maybe it's just a matter of getting better technology. So yeah, I'm not quite sure where this is headed, but definitely, I mean, especially if you're looking at places that don't currently have internet, mesh networks are definitely going to be a part of that. But I mean, things like Starlink are also exciting for places that don't currently have internet. So the articles you brought to the table, Zach, I thought were really interesting, especially that fishing town where they were saying, like, we set it up, we couldn't go back for a really long time because of COVID. And when we came back, we found that all these fishermen had started to utilize the internet to get their produce to, like, Switzerland or Europe, before they had to sell everything as dried food because they couldn't directly connect with their customers. And now that they had the internet, they could, which kind of revolutionized their business model and create a whole bunch more opportunity. I thought that was such an interesting point. And we're so normal, like the internet in our lives is so normalized, we forget at the profound impact it has in connecting people across other sides of the world. And we have yet to see a huge swath of the global population get access to the internet. That was what Elon Musk was saying with Starlink, why he wanted to create these low orbiting satellites and kind of create this mesh across the world. And the profound impact, like, it's going to fundamentally change the internet as we know it. To see billions of people suddenly get access to it is going to fundamentally change that, whether it's through mesh networks or whether it's through low orbiting satellites or whatnot. I think that the internet as we know it is going to really, really change as more of these people get access to it, which is pretty exciting. But Jen, I'll throw to you for your thoughts.
Yeah, I think mesh networks offer a really optimistic and cool way to look at the future. And Naomi, just off the back of what you were saying, and when I think about mesh networks, I think about bringing connectivity to some of the most rural places in the world. And when I was living in South Africa, there was a lot of talk about mesh networks and how they could solve a lot of problems. So maybe can you talk us through how that would work for someone who's just hearing about mesh networks for the first time on this show? How would it work? How do mesh networks bring connectivity to these parts of the world?
Yeah, Sorry, go for it, Zach.
You got it, Amy.
Hey, you got it, Zach. You got it.
No, I was gonna zoom out, but you have the right answer. There's a fly on my face. You have the right answer about this stuff.
I was just going to say that mesh networks don't rely on you having access to like an internet service provider. You're sort of piggybacking off the connection of those around you, kind of creating this mesh of like localized connections, which is kind of a very interesting thing. And you have large enough meshes, then suddenly you don't perhaps need to have access to like this centralized internet. It's like it's kind of this evolving phenomenon we're trying to figure out. Like there's a company called GoTenna, which creates these analog devices that help you create networks. I know at PorkFest we use them a lot when the internet is bad to create these mesh networks and kind of spread that connectivity around, which is kind of cool. But yeah, it's just a different way of providing connectivity without having to like lay those initial cables, have the internet service provider servicing every single person. But Zach, I'll throw it back to you.
Yeah, broadly speaking, I think that's a great example, right? Whether it's mesh network or, again, these IoT devices, it's sort of like this small but many conundrum, right? You know, typically we have these centralized players who lay the pipes and they stand to reap the largest benefits. But what crypto presents is the ability to maybe incentivize this this network of many small players who can provide services in a way that doesn't end around some of these central service providers. So I think it'll probably only be a matter of time until these networks can attract enough crypto savvy people to get something going. So I think I'm just curious to see if this becomes an emerging trend over the next 6 to 12 months, but time will tell. All right, we're going to leave it here. It's been a show. It's been the Monday show. We're going to be back tomorrow for the Tuesday show. The Tuesday show, I think it's going to be much smoother. It's going to be fun. There's going to be no flies circling
more
me. I don't know
flies.
what is going on. This is terrible. But we're going to get to the bottom of that and fix it right up. So thanks for tuning into The Hash today. CoinDesk is with you throughout the day. CoinDesk TV at 3 p.m. Eastern, all about Bitcoin. That's on. Until we meet again tomorrow, I'm Zack Seward. We have Naomi Brockwell, Will Foxley, and Jen Sanasie. We are The Hash, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks so much, and we hope you have a great week. See ya.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
See ya.